Hi, everybody. My name is Joel Pitney. I'm the founder of Launch My Book and the host of If I'm Being Honest, which is our new podcast that we've launched to explore uh, all things in the book industry, promotion, marketing, writing, everything from an honest, straight perspective. Um, my guest today is someone that I met in Las Vegas at the Author Nation conference last month. His name is Jay Rosenkrantz, and he is the founder of Plotdrive. Jay and I had a really cool conversation in the meeting area over coffee or bookmarks or whatever we had. And we were talking about AI, which is something I'm very curious about. I know a lot of people are curious about, especially in the writing world. How is AI disrupting the industry, this particular industry, like it's disrupting every other industry? I wanted to follow up with Jay and have a conversation on the record. So, welcome, Jay.
Thank you for having me. It's
Yeah,
fun to be here.
awesome. So I think the first thing I'd love to just know a little bit, I'd love to know a little about your origin story. What is Plot Drive and how did it come to be?
So, Plotdrive is a writing environment that removes the friction that slows writers down. So you can write faster, draft cleaner, and finally finish the stories that you were meant to tell. And
Okay.
so, where did it come about? I mean, we I've been a writer all my life. I think my first interface to writing was like an Atari it was Atari Writer. It was like a blue screen with like a
Oh,
white
really?
cursor. Yeah, and I think that like marked me for life. It's like technology allows you to tell stories, and
Okay.
it frees you. And my career took a creative trajectory as like a high stakes poker player during the internet poker boom. I created a lot of media in many different formats that were really popular in that
Okay.
community. I got into self-publishing after the Department of Justice banned online poker in America, and I started to
It
become
banned what
interested.
in America?
Banned online poker in America.
It banned and that's what got you into self-publishing.
Yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
was really successful at telling popular stories about the game of poker
Okay.
when the internet completely transformed the way it was played and the way it was understood. And I
Okay.
was really, really became obsessed with like I went to school, I got a screenwriting degree. So I
Okay.
was always on the path to tell stories. And I became like really, really interested with like the idea of like how do you create Harry Potter in like 2012? Like how do you create Star Wars and own it? And
Okay.
self-publishing like drew me in because it was a place where it's just you and the written word and you can distribute directly and build an audience. I was really a big fan of the like Johnny Truant's self-publishing podcast. And long story short, I took a sort of circuitous route back because I became incredibly interested in narrative and virtual reality and
Okay.
another new technology. Built a game studio, started working with artificial intelligence to drive character interactions and build narrative systems. Really started to get a lot of experience over the past decade with the like new technology and the absolute messiest storytelling workflows that you could possibly imagine because with new technology comes like a lot of white space to create and explore, but also like new patterns of what people want to do with the technology. Like, how are they comfortable using it? What is it actually good for?
Right.
With VR, that was kind of one of my first experiences, and like nobody knew because nobody knew what it'd be like when you put a headset on somebody and said, "Experience a story." Well, how do you experience a story? Nobody had ever like devised the way to do this and present it to people. So it was incredibly creatively satisfying. But I also learned like an important lesson, which is like, what does it mean when you become really interested in technology that's like 15 years or more too early to
Okay.
what people want?
Hmm.
And that took me into starting this new company with my brother. We started at Y Combinator in Silicon Valley, which is a prestigious startup accelerator, kind of like the Hogwarts for startups. And we
Yeah.
were really devoted to figuring out how can people tell stories, like long form stories, consistently using new technology? And how can that benefit the economics of production for creators?
Okay.
That's always been the through line. And so when fast forward to when like large language models like ChatGPT started becoming available, like Sam Altman, he was the president of Y Combinator just before we got in. So we
Yeah.
got early access to the API and we started building storytelling prototypes without knowing I knew like friendly with James at Pseudowrite. We were building like a writing community product when Pseudowrite was in its infancy. I felt like it was very early to LLMs being helpful for storytelling back in like 2021.
Hmm.
Fast forward to when ChatGPT started to become a thing a few years ago. I was just like, wow, this is incredible. Like you can do so much with this. And so we built this storytelling prototype and long story short, we threw it in front of anyone. Like you could chat and build a world. That's what it was basically. Anyone who wanted to try this, and we found a lot of engagement from self-published romance authors.
Oh,
And
interesting.
we started
And
getting them
so,
on the
so just
phone.
just
Yeah, go
just to
ahead.
interrupt real quick, and if you're going to get into the details of it, forgive me, but when you're saying you can throw you can chat and create a story, was it something along the lines of using some prompts that someone can respond to then build the outline of a narrative, basically?
Yeah, more or less. It was actually like a Discord chatbot,
Okay.
and it was we named it Realm Chef, which later became like our first product in self-publishing using AI.
Okay.
And it became a book marketing tool. But at first, it was just like we saw people could chat with it, tell it their ideas about a world, and then it would open a chat room where you could like chat with LLM powered characters inside that world.
Oh,
And we're
cool.
like, who wants to use this? And we found that romance authors were engaging with it a lot. And we're like, how did you find us? Like, and also like we got them on the phone and we're like, explain more about your like business. Like, and how are you using this stuff in your business? And we learned right away that they were solopreneurs. Like many of them were like really, really they're really great business people and really over like and loved telling stories to readers. They loved using these LLMs to help them, but they're really frustrated by a lot of their workflows. And like the more we got to understand their workflows, like literally like mapping out on like a whiteboard, like all the different
Yeah.
software programs they're using and how they're piping things together and what's causing friction and pain, the more we started to see like one, um, I think it was clear that like wherever AI and storytelling was going and going to go, it was starting with self-published romance authors. And so we were like, again,
Interesting.
my mind was like, well, are we right on time or are we too early again? Because, these are the lessons that I was learning about trying to, read the tea leaves and the patterns around these inflection points in creative technology industries and just my own enthusiasm for like wanting to see how powerful these things could be because I think the romance authors were able to draft work incredibly fast and compress the editing process incredibly fast. And so they
Okay.
were scratching the surface of like a new mode of narrative production. And I think that was very exciting to me. And it was very exciting to hear the stories of how much their readers were enjoying their work, how much of their work was uniquely theirs, and how empowered it made them feel. And so the way we got
Which
into
is that's so interesting to me because the first and the third of those points would seem pretty obvious, right? Using some kind of LLM assist, being more productive, right? But then the second one, it being uniquely theirs, I think that's one that a lot of people would be surprised about.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I think if you talk to enough authors who are using this in their workflow, they're
Right.
actually kind of touching the work
Hmm.
that they all feel that way. They all feel more energy. Like
Hmm.
they've gone from like maybe 3,000 words a day has been like painful and really like taxing and like at the end you're like super drained, your brain is broken, to
Yep.
now like some of them can do 10,000 words, like clean words, um, that are in there without losing their voice, with maintaining insane consistency, and they feel like it's writing's a joy and that there's no drain at all. They're high energy. And I
Right.
I think at first when we were like getting self-publishing, we built Realm Chef to be like a you could upload your book and it would create a story Bible, and then it would like create TikToks for you and TikTok scripts.
Interesting.
And
So it was like reverse engineering. It was like you start with the long form content and then you very easily generate short form content that kind of works from a marketing standpoint.
yeah, because we were like, building like writing software would be really fun, but we like couldn't really see like what that was gonna be because pseudo write, like people seem to like pseudo write. I think
Hmm.
Novel Crafter came later, people like that. So like we're like, I don't know if there's a space, but in the back of my head, I was also like, I really do believe like that it's inevitable that this is going to change writing forever because these models keep getting more intelligent.
Hmm.
Like you can communicate with them, but I didn't yet fully understand how. But in the back of my head, I was just like, it's early. It's definitely early. Like I don't know if it's right on time or it's like too early, but it's certainly early by some order of some degree.
Hmm.
So that was there, and but then we were like in talking to the authors, we saw everybody was just like, can AI do my book marketing? Like that takes so much effort. And
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it. And to me, what I had begun to recognize, like even in when we created our VR game and distributed independently, and I distributed a documentary about the online poker boom and bust independently, had some success with that, not as much with the VR game, primarily because it was so hard to market,
Yeah.
that I was like, oh yeah, this is like a real pain and a problem. And the curse and the blessing of self-publishing, it's like a double-edged sword. There's no gatekeepers, but
Yep.
you actually do have to be like an entrepreneur. You have to be both, like to succeed, you have to be really good at your craft of writing, but you have to also be incredibly good at getting attention and
Yep.
driving those eyeballs of your like the readers who are going to love your stories to your work. So we're like, oh, maybe AI can automate this. And then so we started building these tools, people like them. But I think like it became clear to us that in order to like fully understand the scope of the problem, we had to get some skin in the game and start marketing books. So like we
Okay.
worked with some friends and took on some marketing services work to kind of like dog food our own tools, and took a few lit RPG series to market, like ebook and audio, and kind of learned up close the true challenges that like books in particular face in the market in terms of like cost of production, the margins, the unit economics,
Yep.
how risky it is. Every book series is different.
Hmm.
How important it is to have series and audio ready at the same time. How the
Hmm.
skill set in order to actually win and succeed kind of requires being like a great boutique media buying agency and also like a great content creator, as
Right.
well as like ensuring that the production pipeline never stops. And the more we talk to authors, the more we started to understand that like one, most authors would benefit less from like building a marketing operation and more from just like getting better at finding their ideal reader and improving the quality of their books so they
That's
can stand
interesting.
out in the market. Like,
So,
because, yes, go
yep.
ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question on that because, I'm like you travel, meet a lot of authors, conferences like that, and I think a lot of authors skip over that truth. And I don't know if that's been your experience as well. They'll kind of be like, "Well, I'm good at the writing part. I'm just not good at the marketing part." And maybe it's not quality of writing necessarily that needs to improve, but sometimes that is the case. Like, sometimes people just aren't writing good enough books, or maybe they're not unique enough or maybe not targeted enough to their audience, and it's worth taking another look at that before you just assume that the books are great, I just need to market, which I don't know how to do.
Yeah, I think I don't know that the what the actual solution is because you're still bottlenecked in that you need to find readers and get them to read and buy your book like over a
Right.
sustained period of time. But I do think the honest truth of it is that like it's a rigged game for a lot of people who are in self-publishing because a lot of people who love to write are really like their calling is to create stories, but it's
Right.
not necessarily to like figure out how to market those stories. And so
Right.
like I was just like, wow, current world of self-publishing is kind of broken. Like it's
Yep.
harder than ever. Also, traditional publishing is broken. And again, this whole time I'm like very energized and like this is a
Yeah.
perfect place for like
Yeah.
a startup. I just don't know like how to like find the wedge in yet, but
Yeah.
like this is an old industry that has not changed in a long time, and people are really resistant to change. And here we have this like new insane technology that nobody knows where it's going to go, but it keeps getting better and better. And uh, that was very energizing. Talking to the authors was very energizing. A
Right.
big inflection point for us was becoming friends with Elizabeth Ann West in the Future Fiction Academy.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
and Elizabeth became sort of a wise poobah, a mentor, a guide, and a friend to me. Like she helped us and plug authors into Realm Chef, and she developed a free tool for her community. Like they moderate the AI writing for authors Facebook group, which is like one of the only safe places on the internet and Facebook for like talk about AI and writing honestly. And
What is
no
the name of that again?
AI writing for authors Facebook group.
Oh, AI writing for authors
AI
Facebook group.
writing for
Okay.
authors. It's great.
Yeah.
It's like 7 or 8,000 people, maybe more now. It's a great gathering place. Just have like open conversation, no pitchforks. And they're really great at monitoring that. And they built a school, the Future Fiction Academy, to teach people how to use AI. Because
Hmm.
Elizabeth's point of view is that like uh, writers need to have their hand on the wheel,
Hmm.
and they can't let the corporations and the enterprises decide how this technology should be used. Like
Mm.
the authors and the editors need to understand how to use this technology and how to use it to drive success in their careers.
Right.
And uh, she had this point of view that I think nobody else really saw. I mean, she's like a visionary in many ways, which is that like there's a lot of fear. And so like first thing is to overcome that fear and understand it's not that hard to like understand how to work with these models. That's step
Yeah.
one, because it's natural language and writers are the best of all time. Like they're the best ever at working with language. So
Okay.
like once you
Yeah.
understand that, it's very empowering. And then they need a hand, friendly hand, a guide, education on how to have control and how to understand how these things work. And once you teach them that, like they never look back and they're off to the races. And that's what she learned. And she had this point of view that with Raptor Write, that writers and editors, they just need like a really one, they work in documents. So documents are the interface,
Yep.
which was really smart because I immediately saw the truth in that from talking with all these authors. Like you look at their workflows, they port documents to like, I don't know, 20 different places back and forth
Hmm.
all the time. And every author is different. So no matter what software you build, you have to accept that the rules of writing nature are you need to be able to import and export across a whole ecosystem. You
Hmm.
can't lock somebody in to your way of thinking about things. The other
That's
thing is
smart.
like writers need control and ability to access all the models. And that needs to be like kind of it. Like once you have that, like you've created basically the fastest writing environment for the creation of narrative. And she had some other like really smart concepts and ideas around like how do you feed context to the models appropriately? How do you give writers control? And so we saw this and we were like, wow, like that, like people are loving Raptor, right? And at the time, like I had the thought, well, there's something here because there's like the early adopters are really in love with Raptor, right? They're using it to go really, really fast and create good books. They're doing that because Elizabeth and Steph and Stacy at the FFA have trained them how to use the models. Uh, but like, I think Elizabeth wants to build like a publisher and train people like I don't know how much software she wants to build. And so at Author Nation last year, we kind of sat down and conceptualized like, hey, what if we did a partnership
Okay.
and we built like we took the ideas that exist in Raptorite, but built like a professional grade production system
Mhm.
that was cross-platform. So you could use it on mobile, you could use it on iPad, and that became sort of the genesis of Plotdrive. So they were very, very important, and all the authors in the FFA, from folks that had never written books before, some of whom like had never even like had no experience writing. This is like their first way of learning how to write. Um,
That's
to
interesting.
to top pros with backlists of like hundreds of books.
Right.
We worked with them. They became Plotdrive's first customers, and through working with them over the course of this year, we learned so much more about how to build production infrastructure for long form storytelling. And they helped us make the product like industrial grade, I would say, like able to handle anything you can throw about it, adapt to any kind of workflow, like adapts to the way you think. And helps everybody from somebody who's never finished a book before. We had an author who 67 years he had a book in his head and it could never finish it. It was the thing that he believed was his life's calling, and he finally finished it in Plotdrive.
That is so
And
cool.
yeah, and up to again authors who have hundreds of books in their backlist, small publishers who are doing this at scale and producing books at a fraction of the cost that they used to at literally 10 to 20x speed. And the bottleneck is no longer like the amount of time that it takes to finish a book or the messy middle. The bottleneck is now like figuring out how to sell these books when they're done and also figuring out how to like expand the business into new genres. It's allowed them to like figure out how to take their unique brain for storytelling that works with readers in a certain genre that's their bread and butter, and now learn the rules of new genres and actually build
Mm.
and create stories that they've always wanted to tell, but they just didn't have the framework to do. Like the plot drive really helps them understand how to do that and translate their craft into new forms. And so like
That's
I'll
great. I
cap.
mean,
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Well, one th I think it'd be really helpful, to just understand, you know, what is Plot Drive? How does it work? I mean, I remember when
Sure.
we first met, you gave me this really compelling description. You said it was it's this combination of Google Docs meets Scrivener meets Chat GPT
Yeah, that's a good
environment to
description.
make you better and more productive. Well, it was your description. So, um, I'm just tell, how does it work?
Yeah,
What is
sure.
Plot Drive? How
So,
does it work?
okay, so imagine a document, a word
Yeah.
processor, front and center, your words, you can type into it. Forget the AI. Your words take center stage. It's a document. That's what you're looking at. Now on the left side, there's a collapsible, expandable sidebar that's incredibly simple where you can create more documents and folders to organize them. So this is the structure of your book. You might have a document that's like story foundations or story dossier. It's like your hook and pitch, your character profiles, your
Hmm.
locations, your writing style. And then you might have another folder that's like your book draft, and you might have another folder that's editing notes, whatever.
Hmm.
You can import from anywhere, like all the different text file formats, Word, Google Docs, and you can export when you're done with the draft or whenever you want to get your stuff out. and you can share with other people. Super simple. You can
So
manage multiple projects.
So in that way, you've got your word processor, which everybody, some people write in Microsoft Word, some people write in Google Docs, some people write in Pages. So you've got that function, and you've got your organizational tools, which some people, like my dad, uses his desktop, but some people will use something like Scrivener that's more sophisticated. So you've got like the writing environment, you've got the organizational tools.
Yep. And now Plotdrive becomes the engine, the LLM-based engine to hold
Yep.
everything together and give you control. So the way it does that, every document and every folder next to it is this little toggle switch. And when
Okay.
you flip it on, the AI knows about it. And when you flip it off, it doesn't. This gives
Okay. So
you
the AI
absolute,
is like it's almost AI is like the omniscient consciousness that's looking at everything that's happening, which you
yep.
can turn on and off if you don't want it to see things.
And you
So
can
all the
switch
things, yeah.
at the top of the document, you can switch any model. So you can bring
Okay.
in OpenAI GPT, you can bring in Anthropic Claude, Sonnet 4.5 or Opus, you can bring in Google Gemini 2.5 or 3, and you can access OpenRouter and bring in hundreds of other models. And
So
so
you're
when you
not
have stuff,
actually, you haven't built your own AI. You've built an interface that can use the AI technology of other tools to apply to this writing environment. Is that what you're saying?
yep, and to know whatever context you wanted to know at any given moment, you can flip on and flip off. And then the actual way this is expressed and helps you, we have on the right side panel, which you can hide or show at any given time, a tool called Co-Writer, which is like
Okay.
a developmental editor, writing coach, ghostwriter, assistant, all rolled into one.
Okay.
Co-writer you can brainstorm with, and the more you write inside Plotdrive, the more it understands what your goal is, who you're trying to reach, and all the context of your story, which
Mm.
becomes starts to become really, really powerful if you're a pantser and you're really bad at structure. Co-writer has like this advanced super intelligence of all structures and can help you figure out how to like what's trending and what tropes readers want tied to like what idea you're trying to express and help you find a good structure that you can choose and then bring
Interesting.
into your structure on the
So
left-hand
if you're
side.
more of a stream of consciousness writer where you're good at building worlds and creating dialogue, etc., but you're not quite as good at like structuring the plot to deliver all that in the most compelling way to the reader, Plot Drive's AI tools can help you figure out how to do that based on popular modalities of structure, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, anything you want to ask it about your story, i.e., like, I mean, we view it as like almost like a block breaking writing studio. And I think that's the
Block
key
break,
to
a block break, so writer's block breaking.
yeah, and a block can be anything. Anything
Yeah.
that is like immediately causing you anxiety or to get you stuck or stress. And so
Okay.
it's like the key to that we've seen in authors making the most use of it is like a block is different for everyone. We actually ran like a virtual event with a lot of like top authors and Russell Nolte, who's a partner of ours, called Craft
From
Combos.
he's the Capitalist, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and he's written like 77 books, fiction and nonfiction. Um, I think, I mean, he's largely responsible for helping us identify that that's what it really does, because
Hmm.
it's about like raising awareness of what's blocking you, then talking to co-writer about that, and
Mm.
co-writer busts the block for you. And once you start getting into this flow, what you start to understand is that the real use of LLMs is not to generate text for you. It's
Mm.
like, even though it can, and plenty of people do, like co-writer can be a ghostwriter for you, can like follow your instructions and write in your style. We've got these one-click tools that are like your favorite reusable prompts that you can hide and call on demand. Russell helped create like 50 of them from his frameworks for fiction and nonfiction. They can help
Okay.
you generate right in the document with a button click or revise text right where you are according to your instructions. And like you can
Right.
build and customize your workflows. But the real power of LLMs is like the fact that you can talk to them in natural language and like they can remove all the friction that the invisible frictions from your writing process. And once you do that, what you get is this like continuous flow engine. And you can use it however you want because some writers are like, I don't want AI to generate any words for me, but I want it to help me with structure. I want it to help me like write
Right.
better conflict, give me
Right.
ideas. It's really good for that. And when you put it right into your writing environment and you start to understand that it can do things like hold 80,000 words, hold 300,000 words in its head at once and keep track of your characters and call up whose eye color was green and what was that like werewolf's name in chapter 3 that I introduced in like the D plot. And it knows that immediately and can bust that for you instead of like the old way of doing things. Like what you start to get is this increase. I mean, I've been thinking about it as like this idea of like throughput. It's this increased creative velocity
Yep.
that where you're spending more time like minute by minute in writing sessions, feeling empowered, feeling in control, feeling unblocked,
Right.
feeling like you are that version of yourself that in the old world you kind of only felt on the days when inspiration struck from the heavens and you were like, oh my God,
No,
like,
that's very interesting because the creative process is so important. And what I'm getting from what you're saying, every time that you have a practical thing you've got to figure out while you're writing is an opportunity for distraction and procrastination, right?
yep,
So like if I'm more of a nonfiction writer, so and I do a lot of narrative nonfiction. So for me, it'll be like I'm telling this story, but I'm in chapter 10 of this book I'm working on right now, right? And I need to, but as I'm telling it, there's this little voice in my head saying, didn't I already tell this story? Or didn't I already make this point?
yep,
Right. And so if what I would usually do is I would have to go back through all my Google Docs and go to the chapter where I think maybe I told that story. And I'll have to look at 3 or 4 different places to find the place that I told that story the first time to make sure that I'm not saying it in a redundant way. I'm doing it in a way that, you know, either is not redundant at all or is, strategically redundant, right? But in the meantime, I could easily get an email, get a phone call, have to go pick my son up at school, decide that I want to go have lunch, and then lose the plot.
yeah.
So what you're saying is that one of the big functions of Plotdrive is that could all be dealt with instantaneously for me through the tools available to me.
Yeah, exactly. You talk to co-writer about it or you build yourself a tool that's like, check this or whatever
So
you want to call it.
I could even say to co-writer, "Hey, co-writer, I'm telling this story here, but I'm worried I already told it in another place. Can you help me do that?" And that's an example of me using natural language that it
Yeah,
can
exactly.
understand.
Exactly. And like we've developed it in a way where we've given it the tools so it
Yeah.
can understand Joel wants me to check his work to find inconsistency. Let me think about what he means by that. And let me go look at the folders and documents he's toggled on because let me help him out. Like, and I think like, like in that regard, I think like one of our like core beliefs is like community, but it's community in a different way than
Okay.
I think like it's community through Plot Drive itself, and that like I think fundamentally I don't believe that writers were meant to write alone, even though writers are coming from our minds. So in a way we are alone, but I think like for Plot Drive, the way I view it is like we are carrying the weight with you. Like, so when you're stuck in this regard, talking to co-writer, like,
Yep.
or just the interface itself, its abilities, and
Right.
honestly, like, it would not exist without the power of these models. Like, they're so damn smart and intelligent, like, to
Right.
be able to do that. But I do believe that, like, by having this engine under as the software to carry the weight,
Right.
like it really like lifts a lot of that anxiety away because it doesn't sit with you. It's voices in our head, right? Like
Right.
that's what it is. And like I think the thing that became like that I saw through like listening to all these author interviews around CraftCon about blocks is that like it's not about talent, it's not about like creative ideas. Like we all have innate talent and creative ideas. We're all driven to tell stories that only we can tell. It is much more about pushing past the blocks of like
Hmm.
the doubt, the anxiety, the voices in our head and how they manifest. And it's so hard sometimes as life like puts a cloud over everything. Like
Hmm.
It's just that everybody's dealing with pain and problems and they manifest in so many different ways.
Hmm.
And so I think the real gift of AI to writers, and I think writers and editors, anyone who loves storytelling is like slowly waking up to this the more they start to both experiment on their own and think about this and get more experience with it. I think it's that like it helps manage this impossible state. Like just
Mm.
take a book, like there's like 50,000 different things you need to keep track of in a book. And like,
It's a massive undertaking.
yeah, and our minds, like it is an ordeal to like train your mind to actually build the engine that can sustain that. And then for a career to do that again and again, you're like everyone's gonna burn out. Like
Hmm.
100% of people will burn out at a certain point.
Well,
Ha-
it's fascinating to me because I'm a philosophical guy, so and you're getting a little philosophical here, so I'm taking the bait. So the like to me, when you think about AI or any technology, right? I'm for instance, I'm reading this book by Paul Kingsnorth called Against the Machine, right?
Oh,
Where
cool.
he's a bit of a Luddite for me, but still he has an interesting philosophical take.
I feel like I
Any
read a King's North book actually.
Yeah,
Like,
no, he's become very popular right now, I think because of the rise of AI. And any new technology, right? There's this fear in the human spirit that the technology will somehow replace something that's human,
hmm
that's deeply and uniquely human. And I think writers, especially, I think especially anybody who's in a creative pursuit, these stories like that you so beautifully said that only we can tell, they feel so authentic and deeply human to us. And so there's this fear that somehow AI will take away that thing or any new technology. I mean, people said this about the typewriter. They were like, the typewriter is going to ruin writing because it's better to write things in hand because you're more connected to the paper and the tactile. Everybody said this about every technology that came along. So there's this like fear that you will be replaced or the fear
yeah.
that something deeply human will be lost.
Well,
And
as they say in Dune, fear is the mind killer. I think that is the great lie that
yeah,
so much of the creative community is trapped in right now and
well,
cannot see through it.
yeah, and what I think is interesting is that I think there's any misunderstanding has truth to it, right? So there are examples of people who are using AI to just try and replace creativity. Now, I think
Sure.
anybody who's tried in earnest to really use AI to generate real writing has found that it doesn't really do that good of a job. And like you can't
Yeah,
I don't
it's no good.
it's not good. And so so the framing that you're giving to me is more interesting, right? It's a technology that can actually help us be more human, that can help us that can be we can be better at the things that we're already good at, just like the Gutenberg the printing press and the typewriter and the microprocessor and the internet. There's there's been these pieces of that technology that have helped us to be more creative and more expressive and reach more people. And uh it's all about how you see it. And I love this. I love the way that you think about Plotdrive, or at least the way you speak about it, as being an environment that assists you, not
Yeah.
replaces you.
Yeah, I mean, we are the stories that we tell ourselves, right? And there's a
Yep.
really loud story being told by a lot of people from top to bottom across the creative industry. That is, AI is bad, it's unethical, it's going to automate us out of existence. Resist, resist, resist. It's one way of viewing things, and like you said, there is truth in that. Like the way these models were trained is like a grievous wound on the like it's a traumatic wound on the creative community, right? Like it's not introduced in a way that if you could write the story of how this helpful technology would come to be, like you would get the buy-in from our most creative people and like
Right.
find a way to bring it to society rather than just like rip all the books like that they could find and sort of use them to train the brain and that's kind of I think the like inciting incident of the AI story was there for creative community. But I think if you
I
talk
see what you did there, Jay.
if you talk to the actual humans who love like their destiny is to be a storyteller. They
Mm,
love writing. They
mm,
love art. They love creativity. They resist capitalism because they found something more meaningful in the pursuits that they're doing, although they have to operate in the capitalistic world. But they really connect with what they read and the stories that they write. I think if you talk to them, you just can't deny the truth of what they feel and what they know. And as more and more creators experience that, like that, it's a quiet building story, but it's what we're seeing firsthand from working with now thousands of authors and more every day, and
mm.
aligning with folks who participate in CraftCon, like Melissa Storm and Novel Publicity, Russell Nolte, like many more of these incredible writers who are like serious authors who have reader bases that appreciate them being able to like deliver the stories they love with the characters that they love, whether it's
Yeah,
fiction or nonfiction too. Like Russell uses LLMs to help him with both nonfiction articles. It helps him sustain his output. But also, I mean, he had this mega epic fantasy series called Quest Girls, 800,000 words that like he literally never, he thought he would never write another fantasy book again because he was so daunted and like long COVID hit him and like he just couldn't handle like all the threads that you would need to deliver. And that was like his sort of bread and butter fiction was like these big kind of fantasy worlds and because a Plotdrive like and AI and ChatGPT and Claude, it helped him like actually create this series that would not have existed without it. And like so many different stories of that. So I mean I think like for Plotdrive, I think like in terms of like how I think about it and how I just think about all this in general, I feel like that to sum it up, I feel like writers are meant to create.
hmm
And we protect that calling, like baseline. I think what I said about like carrying the weight, like I think that drives how we think about development because we talk to so many writers using it, but I think about like where's the friction? Like what is like making you like rage click or like throw your computer at the wall or whatever. Like, how do
Yep.
we do that? I think also is just something that like I believe like writing, and this is true for myself, but I see it in everybody. Like writing is like spiritual and developmental. And
Yeah.
so I think like we help writers grow into the fullest version of their voice. Like that is what we're about. Like not about automation, but about like what do you want to say and how can you say it the best possible way. And what I've learned from a lifetime of writing since like the Atari writer is just like my voice is becoming clearer and clearer the older I
Mm,
get. It's a lifelong pursuit
mm,
of an ideal, which is like I want to tell the stories that only I can tell in the best version of my voice based on like my human experience with like the people that I've encountered and what has resonated with me and transmute that into something. At least what for me, at least one person might like laugh at, they might feel something about, like they might be like, that's a good idea. Um, I think for us in terms of the service, like we serve writers by eliminating friction. Like that is like the administrative burden that steals their joy. I think that was like the big insight of this technology is there's all these paper cuts that you wouldn't in the previous era we just accept
yep.
like and we live with, but now we can eliminate them and remove them. And I think we help writers put more stories into the world, and I really believe stories change lives. So I believe that's like the best thing we could possibly do. And I think like that's what we're about. And, the program is a simple writing studio, and there's a free trial, and you should try it. If you liked anything that we've talked about, try it out for free. Email me jay@plotdrive.com if you have questions. Happy to make you like a quick
And
video
that's
to help you.
Jay.
AAY, yeah. But I think that's what we're about, and I think like um, that's the honest truth to put in your words. And I
No,
read
no, Jay,
Savage Gods, by the way, from Paul Kingsnorth, and it is a great book.
yeah, no, it's so I think that's a really good place to end our conversation, which has been super fascinating. And I want to have, I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, I'm gonna go sign up for Plotdrive today, and
Let's
I'm gonna
go.
workshop it on my next on the chapter I was just telling you about. Um, and what I'd love to do is have a conversation, another conversation with you, um, after a period of time that I've had a chance to sink my teeth into it, and maybe we can take things a little bit deeper. But
Oh yeah.
I feel like you've given a really interesting overview of the role that AI can have to actually make us more human as writers, which I think is beautiful. Um, and I'm excited to, I've been inspired to sink my teeth a little deeper into something that I had been a little hesitant around. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome, and look forward to hearing your opinion and your feedback. And if you run into any friction, you know, open door, shoot me an email. Ping me.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Joel. It's
Yeah.
fun to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.